The pirates. It's a bad sign when the psychologist comes out to take a few deep breaths to steady themselves. I can see this situation is going to just be magical to deal with. He notes blithely, this is going to be a special day. He just knows it. You be quiet. That boy. Hey. The good doctor is forced to take a few more breaths to steady herself. If you're going to keep your voice raised, he is going to hear you. Beck reminds her. Perhaps this was a mistake. Dr. Bernice Holwar had come to Vuxa for frontier medicine and to learn of the stalwart mind from beyond the edge of civilization. She arrived about 2 weeks before Vuxa was flat out conquered by the crew of the EFL Tiger. At first, she had been thrilled, but then more and more work had piled on, and it appears that Beck and his slimy little friend had found her upper limit. What happened to him? Beck asks, slowly and calmly. The door opens. I was created for the sake of profit. I'm a breakaway component of my mother, torn off before the budding could finish and then forcibly imprinted on the enslaved men they had. The Slobe boy states exiting the therapist's office. There is a distinct deadness to his tone and a complete lack of inflection. Kid's clearly numb just thinking about it. Beck tabs in a bit more about Slobe biology. The entire species is an aberration. No real sex, but they imprint based on the things around them. They take DNA samples to basically scramble their own biology when they bud off a child and use that to ensure a genetically strong next generation. The imprinting is mimicking them with their slime bodies to interact and understand the world around them. This one had been deliberately imprinted on males. Wait, the volunteers for the army had a lot of Slobes. Were they also... Shit. Are the other Slobes that signed up like you? Beck asks, and the child gives him a look with a tilted head. I'm youngest. I don't know, he says, and Beck kneels down to his level. Why did you sign up to be part of the army? I want to fight back. If someone tries to hurt me again, the kid says, and Beck pinches the bridge of his nose. The doctor fights back a sob. She's not able to do anything about this. Little Miss Naive Idiot came from a nice life of plenty, no issues. You're also a kid. A highly traumatized and hurt kid. You need to heal first, Beck rebounds. My core is fine. You've undergone severe trauma and tried to throw yourself into a life of violence with lies. That's not fine, he says to the tiny being of gunk who suddenly looks pissed off. You just want me weak, like them. The boy roars at him and suddenly springs to the side, his body contorting into a line that throws his core along behind him at shocking speeds. Oh, fuck, Beck exclaims before running after the kid. The boy reaches the end of the hallway and instead of going to the side, he bundles up to the window and taps the glass. Then, forcing his core to the base, he gathers all his slime up into a spiked ball that slams into the window and shatters it while carrying him out. Beck doesn't even slow down and jumps through the window after the kid. He uses the trick Franklin taught him and lands perfectly fine. On the way down, he spotted the kid hanging off a wire and swinging. Beck takes off after the now swinging brat in the middle of some kind of psychological breakdown tantrum. Stay off the power lines! God's sake, you'll kill yourself if you make a mistake on those! He shouts up to the tiny glob of a person that then dashes onto a rooftop. Good. The kid isn't completely beyond reason. Axiom is pulled in at his legs and he cracks the pavement as he launches himself up. He doesn't have the finesse some of the other guys have to avoid shattering things when he goes superhuman, which makes sense. His mental image is the Tick, and that big blue bonehead is hard on the terrain. The tiny red glob is bouncing to another roof, and Beck gives chase immediately after him. The chase goes from rooftop to rooftop until the little glob pauses at the end of a city block. Kid, you need to calm down. I'm not your enemy. Beck calls out to him with his hands out to show there's nothing in them. He's unarmed. You want to keep me weak. You want to hurt me like the rest. I am nothing like those people. I want you safe. Children your age shouldn't have to worry about fighting or pain. Beck protests as he pushes back some unpleasant memories. A furious woman screams, shattering glass, and a flash of pain, memories he pushes back. Now that the kid isn't running around recklessly anymore, Beck is no longer approaching. With half a roof between them, the kid has plenty of space. Beck actually backs off and sits on the opposite edge of the roof. The ledge has a lip that rises up and serves as a decent seat. The little Slobe boy seems to react with the distance, and Beck keeps the enhancements on himself running even as he sits. If the kid bolts again, he needs to keep pace. The boy just stares for a while before calming down for a bit. The slight amount of grit and pebbles the kid picked up in his frantic run are pushed out of his gel body as he fluctuates. The Slobe equivalent of catching his breath. In all likelihood, the kid was more tired than cornered, which means that if he spooks the little guy, the chase begins anew. You're pretty quick, little guy, Beck notes as he considers things a bit more. I understand not wanting to be hurt. I understand wanting to run, but if you do it half-assed, you'll only make things worse, Beck states, and the kid looks angry again. At least he isn't scared. What would you know about it? He demands, and Beck holds up a finger before peeling off his jacket and t-shirt. He then turns around to show the tracery of old scars. My dad was a monster, an abusive drunk. He'd throw glass bottles when angry. Got me good more than once, he says, and the Slobe says nothing. Unlucky for me, my society puts a lot of stock in a woman's word. So when my mom put on a show about how she was a caring mother with an imaginative and clumsy little boy, they believed her. It wasn't for years until I managed to prove he was a bastard. But after that, I learned my mom wasn't his victim. She was his enabler, his partner in crime. What happened? War happened. The prison my dad was in was hit by a mis-aim missile and he died in the blast. About a year later, the beacon came to Earth to show the way to the stars, and I signed up to be part of the crew. Some signed up for adventure, some for duty, some for love of the unknown. Me? I wanted both off the planet and to dodge a draft for a pointless war. Hoping maybe being alone would teach that evil witch just what she lost. Turns out, though, that nothing I ever do will be enough, and no matter how much I want my mother to love me, I'm not going to get that. So yes, kid, I understand wanting to run. I ran nearly a quarter of a galaxy away. And you know what? It still hurts. Oh, trust me when I say running doesn't help. I ran as far as I could from my problems, and I still have the scars, both in the skin and soul. Running doesn't help. What does help? The kid asks. A lot of things. I make jokes. I learn new skills. But most of all, being with people. Trying to heal alone will just twist you. You need someone there with you, or it's just going to come out wrong. The kid opens his mouth to speak, but says nothing. I was only half-butted when I was torn off my mother too quickly. It killed her. I'm sorry to hear that, Beck says. They threw me with other men, but I didn't understand them. It didn't make sense, and a lot of them were forced to sleep with weird shapes of gray around them. Stasis fields. They were trapped in time, Beck explains, and the kid nods. There were others like me, but none of them were like me, you know? None of them made the same way you were, Beck says, and he nods again. So you had no one to relate to, no one to support you, and what? They avoided me. Apparently it's a really, really bad sign when someone kills their parent while budding. I didn't mean to. I was torn away, but with all the terrible things happening to them, you just seemed like something awful to them, leading to idiots being scared of you, a newborn Slobe. They told the other races, and they all stayed away from me. They kept calling me Hloshab, Deathborn. So you were born with some knowledge, I assume? Slobes get a fair amount of knowledge from their parents the moment they're budded off, Beck says, reading it off his implant. The knowledge is usually limited to mobility, physical tricks, and languages. The kid nods and Beck does in return. All right, so you can talk from it, understand people, and move right? He asks and the boy nods. Anything else? A shake of the head. Beck nods. Then I must proclaim that you're just a normal Slobe. Young, yes, and with horrible things having happened to you. But you're no Shab. You're an orphan, someone who had their family torn from them. It's not your fault, was never your fault, and it will never be your fault. Anyone who says anything else is either stupid or lying. The boy stares at him, his form wavering and shifting until he lets out a cry and screams to the sky. His body dissolving as the kid wails in utter misery, barely able to keep his form solid. The scream of pain is broken by hacking, gurgling sobs. Beck is already kneeling next to him, reaching down to support the central core as the tiny thing lets out all of his misery. The slime of the kid's being bunches up and leans into him, allowing Beck to fully pick up the child. You're going to be all right, kid. You made it through. It'll hurt for a long time, but you're past it. You've made it. He finally settles on, about 6 years old. Slobes, as a race, skipped the first 5, and however long this kid's actually been alive, it aged him fast. He was probably only a few months old, but as the old saying goes, it's not the years, it's the mileage. He pulls out his communicator, a bit of dialing one-handed, and he has it up to his ear. Hey, Doc, I got him. Poor kid's been through a lot, and his fellows in misery just made it worse. He opened up. How can you... Dr. Holwar begins. Doctor, I think you may have bitten off a bit more than you can chew when you came to Vuxa. There are a lot of broken people here, and people don't break gently. I know that, she snaps at him, but he's a newborn. Who could do such a thing? The doctor asks. Doc the Duchess is a survivor of the Dark Cabal, and she has friends on planet from that terrible time. We have dozens of girls who have been placed through non-retaining healing comas until their very selves were erased as they were harvested for organs over and over again. That's not even touching the forced addictions and prostitution that several of our fighters in Red Squadron underwent. This planet was a spinning patch of hell when we got here, and it takes a special kind of evil for an invasion and conquest by pirates to be a marked improvement for a planet. Doc, you might want to head back to more civilized space if this really bothers you. Start your career easier. Not with this hell, Beck advises. No. If this place is really so awful, then it needs people like me more than people like me need to be away from places like this. I'm needed. I was just caught off guard, she insists. You want to know the worst thing about stuff like this? He asks. What? You get used to it, Beck says before smirking. Either that or you go pants on head bonkers and start demanding for the weirdest things. Either way, I see it as a net positive. His grin is vicious now. With the worst out of the way, he can entertain himself. Net positive? We either get a competent psychiatrist that can deal with anything, or we get some light entertainment with the newest local fool, he says, and there's a little he of amusement from the kid. Do you have any idea how... Wait a minute, you're messing with me. Yep, he admits shamelessly, and there's a groan of frustration from the other end that warms some of the blacker parts of his heart.